Hello everybody and welcome to Unfiltered Sports Network Way Too Early Predictions for Week 1 of the NFL regular season. My name is Kyle Grogan, otherwise known as Sir Grogshire, and I am the Bengals writer for Unfiltered Sports Network. Today we're going to be talking about the Week 1 matchups and division records for the end of the season, so make sure to stay tuned to the end of this video for those predictions as well as the full Week 1 matchups. For the first Thursday Night Football game of the season at 8:20 Eastern Time, we have the Green Bay Packers versus the Chicago Bears. This is going to be an interesting matchup due to the fact that Aaron Rodgers is coming off of an injury from last year, and the Bears just made it to the playoffs last year. Us writers at Unfiltered Sports Network were very 50-50 about this matchup, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Let's get right into the 1 o'clock games on Sunday. First up, we have the Rams versus the Panthers, and according to our Panthers writer, Mr. Alex Harden, the player to watch out for in this matchup is Brian Burns. He was their number 1 pick in this year's draft, and he's going to be playing left end or outside linebacker, being subbed in during pass rush positions, and he also had 5.5 sacks during the preseason, which is a great number to have. Unfortunately for Mr. Harden, most of us are picking the Rams in this matchup. Our next 1 o'clock matchup is the Eagles versus the Redskins in Philadelphia, and we have two Eagles writers that both say that the Eagles are going to win this pretty handily, and everybody at Unfiltered completely agrees with them. There's no way the Redskins win this. On to our division rivalry game between the Bills and the Jets. According to our Bills writer, Mr. Ryan Brock, the player to watch out for in this matchup is second-year cornerback Levi Wallace. As an undrafted free agent last year, he had his moments, but Ryan expects him to have a breakout year, and he goes on to say that he's really good, but nobody knows it yet. I guess we'll come to see in Week 1. And the line for this game is 50-50 between the Unfiltered writers. Moving on to the Falcons-Vikings game in Minnesota, with Matt Ryan going into his 11th year and Kirk Cousins going into his 2nd year with the Vikings. This game is going to really come down to who can run the ball better and which defense can get out the block and help their offense the most. Due to the fact of Julio possibly not playing in Week 1 with contract disputes, and as writers, we are once again 50-50 on this matchup. With more games at 1 o'clock, let's move on to the Baltimore Ravens and the Miami Dolphins. The reason why this matchup is interesting is because now you have a defense without Terrell Suggs, but adding in Earl Thomas, you have Mark Ingram, and you also have Lamar Jackson entering into his 2nd year. Can he push his team and not put all the pressure on the defense? While on the other side with Miami, you have Fitzmagic with Josh Rosen backing him up in Week 1. Can Magic strike twice in 2 seasons? I guess we'll find out. Nobody's giving the Dolphins a blue moon's chance in hell to win this game, so we're all going with the Ravens. Going on to the Chiefs-Jaguars game, the real interest here is Patrick Mahomes versus Big Dick Nick. But do we get the classic meme of December Nick and playoff Nick, or does he fall a little limp? According to us, Chiefs are going to win this, except for Jesse Tolles. He's going with the Jags. To round up the 1 o'clock games, we have the Titans versus the Browns. With all the hype that the Browns have gotten this offseason, it's interesting to find if we're going to see the super freak Myles Garrett versus the inhuman Derrick Henry in a defense versus offense matchup. But also we have Baker Mayfield going into his 2nd year. Can he improve upon his fairly successful first year, or are the Browns going to fall apart like they normally do? In this line, we have the Browns getting the heavy hand, but we have two people going for the Titans as well. Jumping ahead to the 4:05 games, we have the Colts versus the Chargers, and with Andrew Luck unexpectedly retiring in the final preseason game, we're left to wonder, can Jacoby Brissett step up and lead the Colts team to a win over the West Coast Chargers, while on the other side, you have the Chargers without Melvin Gordon, and hopefully Phillip Rivers jumps back to what his potential is and helps lead this team to a victory, at least they're hoping for. The line for this game is we're all going with the Chargers, and most of that is because of the Andrew Luck retirement. For this matchup, I want you to go back to 2015, where it was the Cincinnati Bengals at home versus the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks wound up giving up 17 unanswered points, including overtime, for the Bengals to come back and win the game. Now, jumping ahead to this matchup on Sunday, it's a little more interesting because now you don't have Doug Baldwin and the Bengals under new head coaching for the first time in 16 years with Zach Taylor at the helm. Will the Bengals offense do enough to upset the Seahawks again in week 1? The two people to look out for in this matchup is, for the Bengals side, undrafted rookie Damian Willis, who's going to be taking the role of AJ Green. He was named the starter at the end of the preseason week 3, and he's going to be lined up in the 1 spot, where Ross will be lined up in the 2, and Tyler Boyd will be lined up in slot. Willis put on a hell of a preseason, getting passes from Ryan Finley, but how will he fare with the hot and cold Red Rifle? Going to the other side of the ball for the Seahawks, with Doug Baldwin retiring, the Seahawks have a huge role to fill in wide receiver, so this is where Tyler Lockett needs to step up as an explosive ball handler. They also drafted DK Metcalf in the draft, so we'll have to see where he plays a role, if he gets to play, excluding his knee injury that he has sustained. So, what do we have for the line? Unfortunately, nobody's going with the Bengals. Not even myself. Going right on into our 4:25 games, we have the 49ers versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This matchup is pretty much Jimmy Garoppolo versus Jameis Winston. Nothing more, nothing less. With Jimmy Garoppolo coming back from a season-ending injury from last year, which was fairly early on in the season, and with Jameis Winston still trying to figure out what's going on and going back to that first-round status, we need to know if he can hang with the elites or if he can't. The line on this is 2 people are going with the Bucs, but everyone else is going with the 49ers. Good luck to you, Zach Miles and Jesse Tolles. Next up, we have the division rivalry of the Giants at Dallas to face the Cowboys. Our Giants writer says that Sterling Shepard is due for a huge week 1. The Giants will be without Golden Tate for the first 4 weeks, so Shepard will have to pick up the slack. The Cowboys' defense is much improved, granted, but their corners have a lot to be desired. Sterling is very talented, shift receiver, and Eli's longest tenured pass catcher. Due to the sheer volume of targets, Eli and his rapport, and a good matchup against the Cowboys secondary, I expect Sterling Shepard's name to be called a lot on Sunday. This has a lot of weight to it, especially since the Cowboys are relying a lot more on their linebackers and their defensive line. But on the other side of the ball, you now have Zeke getting paid, Dak is still under center, and what can the Giants' defensive line do to stop the run? That's going to be the biggest question. Our line on this game is only Jesse Tolles is going with the Giants. All the rest of us are going with the Cowboys. If Zeke didn't sign, that would have been a whole different story. For our next matchup, we're going to Arizona for the Lions versus the Cardinals. This is Kyler Murray's first matchup as an NFL quarterback, and in preseason he was very hot or cold. It was never in between. Can Kyler Murray put it together with his future Hall of Famer wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald, or are the Lions and Matthew Stafford going to steal this one with second-year coach Matt Patricia? The reason why we're all going with the Lions is there's a lot of questions about Kyler Murray and how stable he's going to be as a quarterback. So, we're going Lions. What do you think? Moving right along to our Sunday night primetime game, between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots, who a lot of people are going to say is the AFC Championship match before we even get into Week 1. Me, not so much. This game is going to really rely on the two defenses, who can withstand who the longest. With Pittsburgh finally moving on from Ryan Shazier and getting first-round draft pick Devin Bush, this could be a fairly exciting defense to watch. As far as the Patriots go, you got Tom Brady back, you got Julian Edelman back, and Josh Gordon back for what feels like the 11th time. The line on this game for us is Patriots are going to win this, but we have two people that are saying that the Steelers have this one in hand. Going to our first of two primetime games for Monday night, we have the Texans versus the Saints. With the Texans, the defense is really in question because you only have J.J. Watt now. With Jadeveon Clowney moving on to Seattle, it's going to be a real coin flip to see where this Texans defense is at. Plus, you have Deshaun Watson, who is now possibly going to be elite. That's at least what Texans fans will tell you. But never count out DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is still an elite wide receiver who, in the regular season, didn't have any drops. Moving on to the Saints, you have what seems to be the most complete team, even compared to last year, where they made it to the NFC Championship and may have gotten robbed. At least that's what Saints fans will tell you. The line for this game is we're all going with the Saints. There's really no reason to go for the Texans on this one. The final game of the week is between the Denver Broncos and the Oakland Raiders. The big question about this game is Antonio Brown playing or is he not playing? If you go all the way back to a certain playoff game in 2015, Antonio Brown kind of took a hit straight to the noggin from somebody's shoulder pads. It wasn't the helmet, I promise you. But with that guy now being his teammate, that Oakland defense is actually fairly good. Going over to the Denver defense, though, if you ask the people that write with Unfiltered, this is a defense to watch for. They are saying it's going to be one of the most explosive defenses that the NFL has to offer this season. When you have Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, are they right? I guess we'll have to find out. The line on this for us is 50-50. Myself, Harden, and Tolles, we're going with the Raiders because we actually think that Antonio Brown's going to make a difference. And with the much improved Oakland D, we'll have to see. Now we can get to the predictions of the divisions themselves. Just to give you a little summary of how this is working, is each writer was given a chance to make a prediction for their team's division. And if there's multiple writers for that division, I'm going to take the one that I feel is the most reasonable, and that's going to be the one that we put on the screen. Starting off with our Bills writer and the AFC East, Ryan Brock decided to come up with the Patriots going 11-5, the Buffalo Bills coming in second place getting 9-7, the New York Jets going 7-9, and the Miami Dolphins going 4-12. Unfortunate for you, Miami. Better luck next year. Going on to my division, which is the AFC North. Like I said before, I'm the Bengals writer for Unfiltered Sports Network. And going to this, I think this is going to be one of the most competitive divisions in the AFC. So we'll have to see what happens. But on paper, these predictions came before the preseason even started. But I had the Cleveland Browns taking first place for the first time in a long time, going 10-6. I had the Baltimore Ravens taking second place, going 9-7. And I had Cincinnati and Pittsburgh actually tying in the division, going 6-10 apiece. And no, that has nothing to do with any rivalry. That's just my honest opinion, since I think Big Ben is, one, due for an injury, and two, he's just getting old. Now we head south for the AFC, aka the AFC South, and find our Cowboys/Titans writer, Mr. Matt Duckworth. And he's got a fairly interesting prediction for what should be a very interesting division. We have the Texans taking first place, going 10-6. We have the Titans taking second place at 9-7. The Jags taking third at 7-9. And due to Andrew Luck retiring, Colts going last place at 6-10. Personally, I actually think the Titans and the Texans should be swapped. But that's me personally. Let's see what you say in the comments. Rounding up the AFC, we have the AFC West, done by our Giants writer, Jesse Tolles. Yeah, I know the Giants have nothing to do with the AFC West, but you'll live. The way he did it is he has the Chiefs overwhelmingly taking the division, going 12-4. The Chargers taking second place at 9-7, even without Melvin Gordon. You had the Broncos going 7-9 because of that tough defense. And then rounding it up, Raiders not doing any better than they did last year, going 5-11. Let me know if you think he got that right. For the NFC East, we actually have 4 writers. We have a Giants writer, we have 2 Eagles writers, and we have a Cowboys writer. So this is where that rule from earlier had to come into play, where I take the most reasonable one and put that as the records. Which the winner of that goes to our Eagles writer, Mr. Zach Miles, who said that the Eagles are going to take first place with an 11-5 record. The Cowboys will come up in second now that Zeke got paid at 10-6. The Giants will fall a little short, going 5-11, and the Redskins, probably putting Dwayne Haskins in about mid-season, will also go about 5-11. The NFC North was done by Cowboys fanatic and our head honcho boss, Mr. Chris Smith. And let's see how he did. He's got the Bears taking the division at 10-6. The Vikings coming up in second, going 9-7. The Packers going 8-8. And the Lions, unfortunately, once again, fall at the bottom of the pack, going at 5-11. If you guys disagree, always make sure to put it in the comments. For the NFC South, we have our Panthers writer, Mr. Alex Harden. And the way that he thinks this is going to go is he's got the Saints going 11-5. Once again, thinking that this is going to be the best team that the Saints have had, even including last year. Then right behind them, we have a tie between the Panthers and the Falcons. If they both make the playoffs, obviously there's no issue, but we'll have to see where the tiebreaker lands and who makes it in. And then coming right up the backside, we got the Buccaneers going 6-10. Unfortunately, it seems like Devin Bush is not going to make it too much of a difference. Last but not least, we have the NFC West with the double-dipping Jesse Tolles giving us his opinion on this. The Rams, once again, asserting their dominance in the division, are predicted to go 11-5, whereas the Seahawks are right behind them, going 10-6. The 49ers, even with Jimmy Garoppolo back, still don't seem to make it to the playoffs, going 6-10. And finally, the Cardinals, getting last in the division at 5-11. Well, I guess that number 1 overall pick is bound to happen again. Good job, Kyler. Well, that's going to do it for this Week 1 edition of Too Early Predictions. Let us know how you think we did. Do you agree with our picks? Especially in the standings, we'd like to know. What are your game time picks? Who do you have for your fantasy team? Let us all know in the comments. And make sure to go follow us at Unfiltered Sports Network on Twitter. And hopefully we'll be doing this some more. My name is Kyle Grogan, otherwise known as Sir Grogshire, and I will see you, hopefully, on Sunday for those nice football games.